intense walkout music.
It was.
Thank you both so much for being here. Elaine, I know you are very busy on a book tour, and Moj was actually supposed to be in Tokyo, but stopped by for us, so I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So the subject of this panel has to do with hustle culture a bit, in the sense that this is like a buzzword that we all talk about now. There's this sort of cult of busyness. And the reality is that for women, and particularly for women of color, we actually do need to work twice or 3 times or 4 times as hard to be perceived as once as good.
Yes.
Fact.
How does that play out for you?
We just do it. I mean, I think we do it. We work really, really hard. We stay close to our other women of color friends who are also busting their buns to really
You can
like.
say ass.
Yeah, we're busting our asses. We are busting, like we are only texting and talking to each other about propelling our dreams and passions forward. And that's, I think, the secret pact that we've all made is to hold each other to our best promises and what we say we want to be and to push each other forward. So yes, I think it's a blessing.
Yeah, I mean, I think Shonda Rhimes has this great acronym, First Only Different, and FOD. And I know I totally identify with that term, and I know you both probably do as well. And I think there's a responsibility that comes with being first or only of your kind in the room. And in some ways, some of that responsibility is feeling like you're representing for the entire race of women, Black people, brown people, and it can feel like
Gay
pressure.
people,
Gay people,
queer people.
I mean, all the intersections, all the others.
All the Muslims.
Right, and I think that but I like to focus on the opportunity that it comes with, especially at a moment like this, because I think there's an opening in the vortex, so to speak, in a lot of industries, and I think that now that we're finally having conversations around diversity and inclusion, with the Me Too movement happening, I think senior management across industries are more receptive to having these discussions internally and hopefully trying to change culture, and also listening to the ideas of the outsiders, bringing in outside voices. And I know when I was at Teen Vogue, I was really, really, really conscious of trying to create a culture that was truly inclusive inside. I really wanted to make sure that on the masthead there was someone that anyone who was reading that magazine could see themselves in, and it really started with changing the stories. The stories changed because we changed the storytellers, and when you change the storytellers internally, I think everyone sort of feels that pressure of being the only one and having to perform better than the next person. I think it starts to dissipate because it sort of evens the playing field, levels the playing field.
Elaine, you wrote a piece for us. It's actually in the special section you will all find in your gift bags at the end of the conference, about burnout.
I did,
and
pulling it up.
You talk about this in, you're multitasking, I see. You talk about this in your book as well. Feeling that you needed to race and always be better than, and always, I think probably in part because of that added pressure of first. You were the first and youngest woman and first woman of color to be the editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue. How do you do it? How do you not burn out? And is there such a thing as balance, or is that just like a bullshit word that we talk about?
I mean, it's kind of bullshit, but I think you don't even think about it. It's just a part of your lived experience every single day, and you just make it happen by any means necessary. For me, though, I think operating at that pace every day of my whole life, I think by 30, I did hit this point where it caught up to me. It caught up to my body. I started to recognize, certain things happening. I was losing a lot of weight. I had this weird thing, this is TMI, guys, but I just had to pee all the time. So I'd be in meeting, and I was like, I just don't have time to pee. Like, damn it, who has time to pee? And, I'm trying to stay hydrated, they tell you to drink a lot, but then you have to go pee, and I'd be at meetings literally shaking like this at the table. And I'd be like, okay, like running a meeting, and the table's shaking, and people were like, Elaine, do you need to go to the bathroom?
Why do I relate?
Just go to the bathroom. And I'm like, no one has time to go to the bathroom.
Why
and they're
do I
like,
relate?
Nothing will happen that's that interesting in the next 5 seconds, just go to the bathroom. And it was embarrassing. It's like, here I am, I'm the leader, and my team is telling me to go pee. But I think there were some wake-up calls that came with that. You know, I ended up going to the doctor and finding out that, like, yeah, this is a sign of anxiety. And I wasn't ever even conscious. I was like, I don't think I'm stressed. But I think your body has a way of showing you and telling you when you need to reassess. And I say reassess, and I use words like realign rather than slow down, because I don't think slowing down is always the answer. I think sometimes it's about realigning and making sure that where you're investing your energy is actually feeding you back. Like, I think when I'm doing things that feed me, that I'm excited about, that I feel a lot of enthusiasm around, I actually am energized by investing my time in it. So I could do it all day long, and I do need to have a cutoff and make a boundary and go to sleep sometimes and go pee. But there are times where I think I find myself spinning and doing things that are actually not my job. I'm taking on someone else's job and really should just be, encouraging them to do their job. And I think those are the things that we have to remember as women. I think it's our inclination, our nature, to just make everyone happy and to take everything onto our plate versus, really delineating responsibilities and holding people accountable to do their part so that you're not taking on more than you need to.
Moj, what about you? You're on the road a ton every month. You have a new baby at home. You have a puppy also.
I do have a puppy.
Like the Instagram photos. How do you keep balance, or whatever you may want to call it? Having different things at different times, not at all.
I do not believe in balance. I don't really even strive for it. I love what I do. I feel very lucky to do what I do. We're reinventing the beauty category. We're shoving legacy brands into diversity and inclusionary conversations. We're disrupting retail. We're, 36,000 plus people are coming to festivals to buy consumer goods that they could just buy at a store. Like, we're doing something very challenging, and I accept that it will push me to my greater limit. And for me, enjoy that. I feel like I have an amazing wife who is very good at calling timeout when timeout needs to happen. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes I can't find my phone or I can't find my keys, and she has taken them from me, and she will say, it's gonna be okay if you just come and have bath time right now. Oh. And so I think, like, when you're a super A-type personality who's extremely driven, surrounding yourself with people who care about you and love you and can say to you, you can tap out for a minute and it's okay, is like a really strong part of like projecting yourself forward, So I feel like I've made a great choice in terms of like my co-founder in life, because I probably would work, 25 hours a day if it was up to myself, because I think like the conundrum of being a female founder, a woman of color, is that the anxiety of failing is so deep and so real. It makes me so anxious to think, what if we don't succeed? What if we're not as successful as I want us to be? When you look at your male counterparts, the amount of, the ease at which they raise money, launch companies, close companies, sell them for asset sales, walk away from them, launch a new thing. Like if you look at female-founded companies, like we are really one of the best bets you can take, but we get so few chances, like with 2% of all funding coming to us, with 0.2% of that funding coming to women of color, like most of us never even make it to that second or third round of financing. So I take the responsibility of being early into the space very seriously, and burnout, I don't drink that much anymore. I sleep. I like Arianna Huffington is all about that sleep life, and she gives you a lot of good. I'm lucky that she gives me some good coaching on the sleeping, and I think faith in God and spirituality has been like a huge, like I find myself saying, blessed, God, faith, like I find myself living in the realm of that a lot more than I used to, because I don't think anything that I have in my life is was going to be like a foregone conclusion, and there must be some higher power at work making it all happen. And so having faith in something outside of yourself, knowing that even when you do burn out, you will be okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
I just want to second that. I want to give that a round of applause. It's so funny. As we were about to walk on, Moj, she brought a prop. I won't, no spoilers, but she brought something up here, and I go, okay, I'm going to bring something too, because I already had it in my hand. Because I'm like, wow, I'm up here talking about burnout. I'm literally the third day on 3 hours of sleep consecutively, and just raced in from Boston. Literally had 20 minutes. You guys have thank God you have a room upstairs. I took a quick shower, like ran down here, was like sipping applesauce out of a packet, and the thing that keeps me alive is this devotional, which is called Jesus Calling. And before every meeting, before every major speaking event, when I'm run down, when I'm not aligned, I read this devotional, and there is something about it that just transcends all of this and changes my perspective. And I think, honestly, if I don't work out, if I don't eat right, if I don't sleep right, I think the most important thing is to make sure that spiritually you're
Correct.
healthy.
Yep. I wear my crystal on my neck. That is like the thing.
So
that I
LA
always-
Moj.
I mean, listen, I soak it in when the full moon comes, I soak it in salt, and I'm unashamed. I'm unashamed in the crystal in my pouch, and you too want one.
I will
so.
not crystal shame you.
No, but like we were, like my comms team is like I feel like terrible for them because I'm like of all of their clients, I like, like everything we do, like I want to be the most prepared, the most prepped, the most like I literally am like, okay, here's like 9 pages of documents, and I know every other founder they work with probably doesn't even want prep or look at prep or want prep, but like you look at these opportunities, like if you told me like a decade ago that we'd be sitting, at a New York Times, New Rules Summit, like these are things that you dream of as a founder. And so like you really, really push yourself hard to make sure that when you show up, you're showing up ready. And I think that pushes you really hard, and that there is a burnout factor for you, but I think everyone else that works with you feels that angst. And so I wish I could say there's some better way, but there's 203 years between us and equal pay, and I'm not cool with that. So what can we do to get that 203 years shoved down to like 50? Like it kills me. I'm like, what can I do to push this trajectory forward faster? Because the impact on society by women not having equal opportunity, I think is tremendously, I think it impacts our criminal system, our education system, everything. I think there's a high price to pay for women not being equal from a compensation point of view, domestically and globally.
Which is interesting because I think the first time I ever met you, like without any introduction, you were like, what's your fuck you number? And I was like, what's a fuck you number? So can you tell our audience, excuse my language, what a fuck you number is and why we need to have one?
So I just give quick.
And what yours is,
I'll tell you.
by the way.
I'll tell you both.
Okay.
Context is, I was at a Goldman Sachs internet conference like a few years ago where all young women pray to get invited to go and meet, hopefully some investors that might seed invest in your company, and you're amongst the realm of like 50 of the best like male investors, and then there's 4 of us, and we're always like, together in a corner. And then there's like villa after parties, and so we went, we got to figure out how to like wiggle our way into the villa after party that night with all the guys. And like they were talking about like, oh yeah, like bought some secondary on Uber and put this money into Lyft, and you're like, what are you talking about? And they're like, like I'm gonna make money on my current company, but I'm also like, we're all putting money into each other's companies to make sure for sure we're sorted. And I was like, to what end? And they're like, till the end that we have that like fuck you number, like that island number. And I was like, wow, like what is that? What is
like
that?
own an island, like have your own island?
It's the amount of money that people have where like they literally change their phone number and don't care who calls them back because they're not working from, like at that point they're just like, I'm done, I'm good, and I only do stuff that I want to do. Like you're wearing flip-flops and walking around like you're just whatever. Those guys. I'm not going to name names, but you know what I'm talking about. And so I gave this talk earlier this year at Maker, because Maker is this like big conference for power women, and there's like 400 of us. And I went up there and I gave this talk called I Also, because in the realm of like Instagrammable feminism, like the joke's on us until we really get right with the fact that we just have we are very uncomfortable talking about money, talking about ambition, talking about the fact that you want a minimum of $100 million post-tax. Right? And it's like one of those things where like we were in this big conference and I asked like legit, like how many people in this room want a net worth north of 10 million post-tax? But like, why are all of your hands not like
Also, it was like this. You guys' hands
Like-
went up.
But so this talk was like, if I was gonna go out this room and hand out like $10 million in cash right now, like how many people would want it? And like everyone was kind of just like, they were just afraid to say that they even aspired to. There's all this pressure on women to like make a difference and do better and break the mold. And you're like, but generational wealth escapes us. The ability to set up foundations in your children's name, to send 100, like I'd love to be one of those people that at a college graduation says, by the way, right now, under your seat, I paid for all of your kids' college. I've paid for all of their schools for the rest of forever because I can. So that's what Fuck You Nobody is. That's what we're doing this for. That's why Elaine's killing this book.
Well, I just want to say, I mean, you are doing really important work changing the culture around how women talk about money. And you're doing that work not just on the stage at Makers, but you're doing it in real time on text message.
Yes, I'm pressuring.
Yeah, and we need that. Like, not enough
Listen,
women are comfortable talking about money with each other.
We literally instituted this year that we're gonna find a partner at Beautycon this year that in addition to your ticket, every single girl that comes through, every person will be able to just pull their credit score. Like people just don't even, like women don't even know what their credit score is. Mm-hmm. How are we gonna make power and be like changing the game if like we can't even get an SBA loan?
Facts. I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
This is why I text you. This is why you and I hold each other accountable to this larger vision of what you're doing and why I'm so proud of this woman, because a few years ago when she was not, sort of making decisions about her career path, I was like one of the lucky people that she, consulted and talked to, and I was like very passionate about her idea. I'm like, you are a massive voice and big brand in this space. I love waking up and seeing you on the morning news and everything else. It's so amazing watching your friends fly.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very sweet. But I will say she's also the friend who's like, but have you met with this investor yet? Like, but what's the next? Like, okay, how are we gonna make you a multi-millionaire? Like and you need people like that in your life. You really do. So, it's kind of surreal that we're on this stage having conversations that we have.
That's why when they were like, I'm supposed to be in Tokyo tonight hosting a dinner for Beautycon Tokyo. And Winnie Harlow's our guest there tonight. She's going to, so I'm like, I can't come because I have to be, because I love this one and I love this one. No, they're both like, these are two of the greatest voices of our time. Oh. They are. They're inspiring. Yeah.
So this conference is called The New Rules. I feel like you are each rule breakers in your own way, and you haven't followed necessarily the traditional path to being an entrepreneur, the traditional path in magazine journalism, which would have been sort of like staying at the corporation, but instead you've gone on your own. Mm-hmm. So what are the rules that you want to rewrite, or that you are rewriting in your own careers?
I mean, there have been so many. Especially during my magazine career. I'll say one from there and I'll say one from now. But so when I was the editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue, I remember the first time that we had put 3 black models on the cover. I was actually not editor-in-chief at that time. I was still beauty director. And I was working with our incredible creative director, and she was trained in France and I think at French Vogue, and she said, there were 3 things I was always taught that do not sell magazines on the cover: black people, models, and anyone without a household name. But we're going to do all three. We did it also in the month of August, which historically is the lowest selling month for magazines. And we sold more magazines that month than we sold more, it was the #1 selling magazine that year over our cover with Kylie Jenner.
Wow.
And it really taught us all something, and to follow our instincts, to go against whatever the rules may say, whatever you've been taught, because it's a new world, and there's a new world order, and we're here to institute it. So that was something that I have taken with me. And then I would say now, and I've written this in my book, but I think it's important that we remind ourselves and give permission to ourselves and to each other that, you know, your life is a series of dreams realized. Mm-hmm. You do not have to be defined by one job title, by one career path, or by one role. I mean, I think it's important that the goal is to find what your purpose is. And your purpose can be multi-platform. And for me, I looked at my journalism, my magazine journalism part of my career as my first huge dream. As a small town girl, first generation college graduate, like that was a huge dream of mine. And I never imagined in a million years by 30, I would have checked off everything off of that checklist. But I did. And I didn't want to be the kind of person who got stuck in this identity that came with the title and the corporation and the institution. And I was in this place where I really had to decide that, like, I came, I conquered, and I can continue to soar. There's more for me to do in the world. And whether people can see it or not, like, this is my vision, and a lot of times it can be, I'm not calling myself a visionary, but
you are.
But no, I mean, listen, I'm not calling myself a visionary, but the point is sometimes only you can see what's ahead of you, and you have to be able to trust that and go for it. And I have not, like, when I left Condé Nast, I'm so proud of what we did there, but I never looked back. Never looked back, and I couldn't be happier about all the things, about making that decision because of the way, the liberation that has come from it. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of my takeaway for me, is like, I can do me across any industry and across any project, and it's about what you bring to the table. And you can also, we talk a lot about, like, especially as women of color, we talk a lot about getting a seat at the table.
Yep.
And I think we need to be talking more about building your own tables.
That's right. Taking the stairs.
Moj, what about you? Give me a rule that you're already breaking or changing, and one that you'd like to.
I'm going to tell you, but first I'm going to tell you, I just want to add, because I met Elaine after the election in 2016, and I met Elaine because Hillary Clinton's a good friend of mine, and I was maimed inside for her that I felt like society didn't love her anymore. So, like, I went to Elaine, she, like, barely knew me, and I'm like, so I have this friend, and I feel like she should be on the cover of your magazine. And we need to do, like, an entire issue, right? Like, that was, like, the weirdest meeting. I'm, like, describing the friend, but I won't tell you who the friend is. I'm like, let's say hypothetically she got, like, 65 million votes, but she like, won, but she didn't win, and she said a whole bunch of stuff about Russia, but, like, let's say hypothetically I knew someone like that, and, like, they wanted to...
I'm like, I get it. I get where we're going here.
Like, do you think there's a
I'm
world?
like, a Secret Service outside? What's going on?
But, like, I think about that moment, and, like, that was, like, I'm not a part of her team. I don't work with her comms team. I'm not a part of anything, but I'm, like, I'm a nosy friend. If you haven't noticed that about me, I'm, like, that friend that's nosy for you. So, it's mostly in a good way these days. But I think, like, when I think about breaking rules, like, I think about that as being, like, such an amazing moment, and where, like, so many rules were broken. Mm-hmm. We did this whole thing outside of the communication comm structure. We like this whole thing happened, and, like, literally by the time it was happening, like, everyone's like, how did this happen?
Yeah, we have to tell them what came of that. Well, so we had this secret meeting, and maybe invisible Secret Service were somewhere around.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, yeah, let's do it. And basically, actually the last issue of Teen Vogue
was,
before I left was, we did a guest edited issue with Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
and it was incredible.
It was
It
amazing.
was incredible, and it really happened because two renegade brown girls had a backroom meeting.
We're like,
and-
we're gonna break rules and rewrite like what collaboration means,
Yep.
what communication, what creative means. Like when I think about the fact that we put Cardi B on stage, even if she was 4 hours late. You know what? My audience literally understands that when she came, she did deliver a 45-minute sermon of church, but that Cardi B comes to Beautycon to talk about financial literacy, to talk about going back to school, to talk about finances, to talk about saving money, even if for her it was saving $32,000 as a woman who was stripping to take care of herself. Like, I think about what we do every day as rewriting the rules, and at this point everyone knows that almost nothing happens on the main stage of Beautycon that is about cosmetics. And that's something we're super proud of. So I enjoy that we're running the messaging and branding of the beauty industry. Like, if that's my greatest legacy, I will be really happy that forever the buildings of L'Oreal and Estee Lauder and Revlon and Unilever are changed because of the new paradigm we've created around inclusivity, diversity, innovation, and having a realm of difficult conversations. That this wasn't like an underrepresented audience. This was an audience that always was seen, that was always there, but just wasn't respected. And so, I don't know, does that answer your question?
It does. We have to wrap up shortly, but quickly before we go, just give me one rule you want to break, like in society.
One rule.
Moj Mahdara, CEO of Beautycon. Anything.
One rule. Fuck.
I
You
know.
can
I'm
change
like,
laws.
what are the rules? I don't even know the rules.
You can give millions to women.
I mean, I'd really, 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 really enjoy it if the world would give a shit about these kids stuck at the border. I think it is fucking insane. I am so mad about it. I literally wish I could just go down there with a ginormous vehicle. Like, I have a 14-month-old son, and every day I see how much upset he feels when I just go to work. And I think about, I think about these kids being separated by their parents because their parents were coming here, right or wrong, and to me, that's a level of evil I really just can't be with. So that would be, I don't know, just overriding the FBI for that afternoon would be good.
Got it. Elaine Welteroth has a new book out, More Than Enough, former editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue.
It's already a New York Times bestseller.
Runway.
Say it so we can
Inshallah.
so.
Manifesting.
It's gonna be on there for like 400 weeks.
Rule you want to break.
I'm just going to say one word. And it has nothing to do with, I don't even know if it's a rule. I think we should just impeach this president. I mean, does that answer the question? Okay.
Thank you.
If I had a mic, I would
On
just
to
drop
the
it.
next.